Hey y'all, I'm Tyler, and I'm a junior at Auburn right now studying applied math. I've been tutoring statistics for the last 3 semesters, and I've tutored about 10 kids. But I just figured that when I graduate, I'm not going to be able to tutor anymore, so I just thought I would make some videos for STAT-2510, which is Statistics for Biological and Health Sciences. These will help you with the homeworks and working through the quizzes and possibly to get ready for tests. And at the end, I'm going to make a big final review for the final exam. So we're first going to start off with Unit 1, which is like learning about variables, learning about experiments, and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so to start off with Unit 1, we are first going to get into some definitions because this is probably your first stats class. You may have had a stats class in high school, but if you have not had a stats class before this, then it's going to be very important that you learn all these terms before we start going over problems that deal with them. So, the first term that you might probably have heard of before is going to be variable. And now, variable is super important because that's what we're going to be dealing with the entire semester. All of the problems are going to have variables in them. So a variable is an outcome that is not certain. Pretty simple on that one. The second one is sampling, and that is taking a small part that is representative of the population. That's when we want to work with a smaller group of the population that can still lead us to draw conclusions to the whole population from the sample. But it's a lot easier to work with a sample than the whole population of interest. The third one is outcome, and that's just the result of our trial. That one, you probably know that one already. The fourth one, sample space. This is all of the possible outcomes of our random variable. So back up to random variable is an outcome that is not certain. So obviously, if it's not certain, that means we have multiple things that it can be. So the sample space is going to be all of the possibilities of that variable. Number 5, we have experiment, and that's just a procedure to test our hypothesis or whatever we're looking for. This is going to help us figure out what it is. Number 6, observational study, drawing inferences from a sample to a population where the independent variable isn't under control of the researcher. This is just if you're looking at something and observing it, that means you're not going to have any impact on how the test is made, how the design of the test goes. You're just looking at results from previous experiments. All right, sound good? All right, let's get into it. Okay, Unit 1 for AU STAT 2510. We're going to start off with some variable classification. All right, so there are two of the major classifications of variables. You have categorical and you have numerical. And once you get into categorical, you can either be nominal or ordinal. Now, nominal is just going to be scattered around of categorical, and ordinal will be in an order, a set order going up from the starting point. And numerical, obviously, is going to deal with numbers. And you have two options for numerical. You have discrete and you have continuous. So discrete numerical is going to be anything that has like set numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, anything like that. And continuous is going to be between a set range. So let's say x is between 1 and 3. So that could take on any value from 1 to 3, which would be 1.294 or 2.62666, anything like that. So that's continuous numerical variables. And then the next thing we'll have is sampling methods, but we'll go over that when we get to that part. So now we're going to work on a couple problems, and we're basically going to identify the type of variable for these. So, as a large part of an ongoing study on the treatment of women with breast cancer, data is collected on the following variables. Determine the type of variable for each. So age, all right, so the first one, age obviously measured in years. So you could have 1 year, You could have 2 years, or you could have, right, 3.3264 years. You could have 22.996 years. So obviously that takes on any number from 0 up until you die. So that would be a continuous numerical variable. Okay, so now number 2. This one's a little tricky because it's dealing with cancer stages, and those are made in numbers. But this is not a numerical variable. This is a categorical variable because it uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when they could also use X, Y, Z, A, and B, right? It doesn't matter that you're using the numbers, you're just using the numbers to represent something else. So you're not actually counting up, you're just saying there's 5 stages, right? So this is going to be categorical. Okay, so the third one, treatment time measured in months. Obviously, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so if they're just measuring in months, that means you can have 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and it'll just keep going, right? So that one is going to be discrete numerical. Okay. So now the fourth one, ethnicity, right? And so these are not numbers. So obviously this is just going to be categorical. Okay. Easy enough for the first one. So now this next one, height of a student measured in inches. So measuring in inches, that could be, right, any number. You can't, so you can have like 60 inches, you could have 61 inches, you could have anything between however, or I guess between 0 and however tall the tallest person in the world is. So you can have decimals in inches, and as you're growing, think about it like as you're growing, you don't grow 1 inch at a time, you grow a tiny little bit of an inch at a time. So you grow like the smallest amount you could at a time. And so there's no way to measure that exactly and make it discrete. So this would have to be continuous numerical. Okay. And so this next one, behavior of a student. And you can have excellent, good, fair, poor, or awful, right? And so this would be categorical, right? Because we're not dealing with numbers. But now we have to figure out, is it ordinal or is it nominal? And so obviously you can see that this starts at excellent and it goes good, fair, poor, awful. And so when you're on that sliding scale, right, obviously that is an order if you can slide it up and down a scale. So this is going to be ordinal categorical. Cool. Okay, now we're back onto sampling. This is a large part of any experiment, obviously, because you don't want to test an entire population. You want to sample to make your tests easier. So the first kind of sampling we have is simple random sampling. And now on this one right here, we have our outcome space, right? And we defined outcome space earlier, or sample space. They mean the same thing. And so we have this green dot, this green box right here is our sample space. So let's see. And then we pick out some of these some of these trials as our samples. So let's do that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And we just took a simple random sample right there. Very easy, right? Super cool. So this next one we have is called cluster sampling. And obviously you can see here that they separate it into 9 clusters, this whole population right here. And then we take 3 of the clusters and we test everything inside of it. So this is cluster. And this next one is called stratified sampling. It's where we take our strata and they're usually grouped in a certain way that makes all of the people in the strata similar. So this is stratified. And then even inside the strata, we still use simple random sampling once we have made the strata. And the next one is going to be multi-stage sampling. And you can see this is multi-stage because first we start off with picking our 9 clusters. And then once we have our 9 clusters, we simple random sample from 3 of those clusters. So if that makes sense, that would be multi-stage. Okay, so now we've gone over the basis of some of the stuff we're learning. And now we're going to use this to answer some questions in experiments. So, a researcher is interested in the effects of exercise on mental health, and he proposes the following study. Use stratified random sampling to recruit 18 to 30, 31 to 40, and 41 to 55-year-olds from the population. Next, randomly assign half the subjects from each age group to exercise twice a week, and instruct the rest not to exercise. Conduct a mental health exam at the beginning and at the end of the study, and compare the results. Okay, so first question, what is the population of interest? Obviously, we have 18 to 30-year-olds, then we have 31 to 40-year-olds, and then we have 41 to 55-year-olds. And now our population of interest is just what we're testing, who we're testing from, where we're obtaining our samples from. And that's what we're looking to answer our experimental question about. Okay, so the next one is, what type of study is this? And obviously you can see the definition that we went over. This is an observational study. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. This is a experiment. Yeah. This is an experiment because we are picking 3 groups and then we are assigning them ourselves. So we're the ones doing the testing, so that's an experiment. The treatment groups are the ones who are getting the treatment that we're assigning. So that would be the groups that exercise twice a week. Okay. And now the control groups, right? I'm sure you've heard control groups before. So groups that don't exercise, right? So it's the people that we're leaving and testing if it does or doesn't work, right? Because we're basically just saying, y'all stay the same, and then we'll change these other people and see if that makes a difference. So that's the control group. And then this one asks, does this study make use of blocking? If so, what is the blocking variable? And this one, so blocking would be where you assign groups that are similar to each other, and this one does, right? Because it assigns the 18 to 30, and then the 31 to 40, and then the 41 to 45. So those are the 3 different groups that it assigns. So yes, it does. And the blocking variable is age. Can the results be used to establish a causal relationship between exercise and mental health? Yes, they can, because this was an experiment we did ourselves. So yes, experiment. And now we know that we can establish this causal relationship because we are the ones who conducted the experiment and it was used well, and we did it ourselves. So we know that we can establish a causal relationship. The next question asks, can the results be generalized to the population at large? Yes, they can, because we took a good sample from the stratified. So we stratified, random sampled the 3 groups, and then we randomly sampled from inside those groups. So yes, because random sample. So this means that we can generalize the random sample results to the population at large, and that's why taking a random sample is so cool because it helps us see what the bigger picture is, even from a small little snapshot. All right, last question. A study that surveyed a random sample of otherwise healthy high school students found that they are more likely to get muscle cramps when they are stressed. The study also noted that students drink more coffee and sleep less when they are stressed. So, what type of study is this? Now, since we didn't assign groups and sample groups and say, hey, you drink coffee and you don't drink coffee, we know that this is an observational study, right? It can't be an experiment because we're not assigning treatments. Simple as that. Can this study be used to conclude a causal relationship between increased stress and muscle cramps? This study cannot be used to conclude a causal relationship, right? Because it's observational. So no, and then because of this. Now, the last thing it asks us to do is state possible confounding variables that might explain the reserved relationship between increased stress and muscle cramps. So this is the reasons that we can't conclude the causal relationship because there could be other things that are causing it instead of just the coffee, right? Because or instead of just the stress. So they drink more coffee and they sleep less when they're stressed. So two of the things that could be confounding variables would be coffee consumption and duration of sleep. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So that's about it for our first lesson. And that would be everything on variable classification and sampling methods. So I hope this helped you. And I'm going to make a second video for Unit 1, and that should be my last video for Unit 1. So thanks for watching.